You can join us now in our first story. The BBC Africa Eye is set to release a documentary targeted at lecturers in some West African universities who have been harassing their students for sex in exchange for grades. Expectations for the premiere are fast building up, with the hashtag #SexForGrades already trending on social media. The issue of students being haunted by lecturers for sex in exchange for academic favors is common on campuses. Many are hoping the expose will bring to bear realities on a phenomenon much talked about, but with little evidence to show. The University of Ghana, we understand, has been featured in this explosive documentary. JoyNews' Nancy Emefa-Jodosi has been speaking to some students on campus who corroborates the story. The full documentary airs later today. Now, Nancy Emefa-Jodosi has been speaking to some students of the University of Ghana on the subjects that has little evidence to prove.
A friend of mine, whose friend was a victim, she shared the story with me.
What did she say?
About this girl who was in level 400, though the relationships that are somewhere around 300, so they were in this thing for, like, say, a year or so. So when she was about to complete, and the lecturer asked her to get someone to replace her.
I didn't expect this from him. Honestly, I'm very surprised because he seems strict, too strict for that. Jovial sometimes, but then not too strict for that. But the proof that I've seen, I'm surprised.
What, I'm sure you are on a platform with your colleagues. What are they saying?
So some are saying that some haven't actually watched the video. They think it's just a student scandal going on because we students do things like this sometimes. So some are saying we should pray for him. Maybe it's the work of the devil. Some are laughing. They're saying, oh, they finally caught him and stuff like that. So some are against him, some are for him.
Actually, the other time, I was going to a friend of mine outside campus, and the lecturer picked me up and dropped me there. Then onwards, he told me to come and see him in his office and stuffs.
Stuffs? What stuffs?
Anytime I go there, he asked me if I'm okay. And do I have class? Do I have lectures? Do I have all the books? If I want to print any stuff, I can come to him and he will do it for me.
I watched the 20-minute excerpt of the video, you understand, and that is what we have on the ground. You understand? We are making comment prior to the coming out of the full video. But what we have now on the ground is the 20-minute, and there is nowhere in the video where sex for grades was mentioned. You understand? There is no evidence in anywhere. And for records' sake, there is nowhere in the university where you see a lecturer, a reasonable lecturer, asking students to come and sleep with them for marks. You understand? Most of the times, the students are the one tempting the lecturers. They go there to ask for A, and when you ask for A and the lecturer try to do some funny things, then you become and say he harassed you or something like that.
Those were some students of the University of Ghana, followed by a lecturer at the African Studies Department, Issa Isaac, who says the BBC Africa Eye documentary is not a good piece because it does not have enough evidence. We move from that story now, and the Association of Law Students across the country have been protesting over mass failure of the Ghana Law School exams. Dubbed hashtag Open Up Legal Education, the demonstrators will march to the Jubilee House to present a petition to the President. This development follows the recent entrance exams, of which only 128 out of the 1,820 candidates who sat the exams passed. Before this, only 64 out of the 525 exams who sat for the bar exam in 2018 passed, with 284 of them failing and 177 being referred. Komla Adom has been speaking to some of the protesters. Now, Deputy Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame is meanwhile calling for a holistic approach to resolving the matter.
I've seen law students demonstrate. I was a law student myself. I was a student as a law student just after I finished my A-level. At that time, I was just about 19 years, went to the University of Ghana. So you can tell even the mood in which we always. But I'm saying that even at that time, when we were studying LLB, undergraduate LLB, and then we continued on to the law school to pursue the professional law course. Never did we experience any students demonstrating. So in this clearly demonstrates the seriousness of the issue. We are called for a holistic view. I think that the access to the LLB program, of course, must even be measured against access to the professional law course itself. So it requires a comprehensive approach. I'm very happy that today we brought the petition to the Attorney General. The Attorney General will take account of all the issues that we have raised, will duly present to the General Legal Council, and then appropriate measures will be fashioned out to address the issue of access to LLB as well as access to the professional law course. And then, of course, the practice of law in Ghana as a whole. And clearly, when examination is set, there will also be what they call marking scheme and that kind of thing. I am not in the position, in fact, I'm not a member of the General Legal Council, my colleague who is a member of the General Legal Council. I do not think that even my colleague who is a member of the General Legal Council is even aware of the marking scheme that was used. So first and foremost, we must establish whether indeed all those who actually failed in truth, or all those who passed also passed in truth.
So let's get updates from Komla Adum, who is following this lead. Komla, we understand the demonstrators just left the offices of the Ghana Bar Association.
Yes, Daniel, they just left the Ghana Bar Association office where they presented a petition to the president of the association, Tony Forson. Now, in his address to the charged audience or the protesters, he told them that they are going to study the details of a protest of a petition. And as he states, as the president of the association, he has background information of some of the concerns they are raising as law students and people affected by the current general legal education system. And so they are going to ensure that they sit with stakeholders and try to fashion out a comprehensive program that would deal with the problem. In his words, comprehensive program that would deal with some of the challenges that have been raised by the protesters. So the members of the group have just left the offices. They went past the Ghana Institute of Journalism, and they are currently headed for the Jubilee House, which is their destination, where they are expected to present the final petition to the president.
Right, thank you, Komla. We'll come back to you when there are more details. Now, Cabinet is yet to receive the draft policy on the now controversial Comprehensive Sexuality Education Program. This is according to the Minister for Information, Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah. Speaking on the Super Morning Show a while ago on the President's statement on the subject over the weekend, Mr. Oppong-Nkrumah said the Cabinet will soon peruse the document and give go-ahead for implementation or otherwise. President Akufo-Addo over the weekend gave an assurance that so long as he remains president, comprehensive sexuality education as being circulated will not be introduced into the school curricula.
I'm sure you've all heard about the recent debate over the introduction of CSE and the accusations that my government and I want to corrupt the morals of our children. I implemented free SHS policy to strengthen accessibility and life-changing education for every Ghanaian child, which will transform into the development of our country. The policy wasn't implemented to corrupt the values of our children. As long as I remain president and a Christian, it will never happen that I will agree to anything which will compromise the values of our society. All the things you heard are not true. Continue to pray for me, for strength, for wisdom on how to govern our country.
Now, Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah says Cabinet will make the final decision on the policy, which is yet to be laid before it. He spoke to me on the Super Morning Show.
this set of guidelines will come to his cabinet for approval. And when it comes to his cabinet for approval, he will make sure that it doesn't contain anything untoward. By that meaning, what people are worried about, this age inappropriate sex education or pro-LGBTQ content.
So this set of guidelines, has it gotten to cabinet yet?
No, it will come to cabinet. As I think has been explained by the Minister for Education, the NACA boss and all others, they are working on what is now in the public domain, which is a draft. They have expressed their views on it. It will come to cabinet, and cabinet will have an opportunity to approve that set of guidelines. And that's what the president is giving commitment to, that the guidelines that will be approved will not contain any of the things that people fear. And he explained the background and the reasons that he will not subscribe to any such thing.
Now, Mr. Oponkrumah, over the weekend when the education minister was speaking at the World Teachers' Day in Kumasi, he stated that cabinet did not approve these CSE guidelines.
Yes, he was referring to the first time that he presented it to cabinet. And the president mentioned it as well yesterday, that the final version will be approved by cabinet. If you follow how cabinet works, when you're making a policy or you're doing something in your ministry, yes, you submit it to cabinet. There are times when it will be sent back or asked that you go and do a revision, go and do the necessary corrections over a period before the final version is approved. Then very often you realize that when cabinet approves something, during our press briefings, we will say cabinet has approved X or Y or Z. So the minister was right when he said that cabinet had rejected it the first time that he had presented it before cabinet. And the president also mentioned that when cabinet finally approves that document, it is not an approved document, when cabinet finally approves it, it will not contain any of these matters which he describes as Brady, which is where you started your conversation on.
So cabinet will look at comprehensive sexuality education?
Cabinet will receive guidelines from the Education Ministry. Whatever name it bears, cabinet will make sure that it does not contain the things that Ghanaians are worried about. That's what the president has said.
We stay with education because the University of Education, Winneba, says it spends over 1 million Ghana cedis every month on extra people it has to employ to ensure quality teaching and research goes on at the university. That's the disclosure by Vice Chancellor of the University, Reverend Professor Anthony Afo-Broni. Speaking at the matriculation ceremony, the Reverend Professor Anthony Afo-Broni indicated that until there is financial clearance by government for lecturers and other university officers to be employed, the university would have to incur costs to ensure quality teaching and research goes on at the university. Richard Kodonyako has more.
Even this morning, some of these hard-working lecturers taught before coming here. I want you all to applaud.
At the matriculation ceremony to admit fresh students into the university, Reverend Father Anthony Afo-Broni, the Vice Chancellor, asked the students to ensure that they pay their fees before the examination period begins. Otherwise, they would be asked to go home to collect their school fees. He explains the university has to employ additional hands to keep the university moving, and that comes with a huge cost to the university, because financial clearance has not been given by government to employ lecturers and other university officers.
I can tell you on authority that every month these days, we spend over 1 million Ghana cedis on extra people that we ourselves as a university have had to employ while awaiting financial clearance from government. And so you can imagine that the Vice Chancellor is incapable of performing financial magic in procuring funds. So you must pay your school fees. And I warn you that if by the time of the examinations you haven't fully paid your fees, you are likely to be sent home to collect your fees.
Students of the University of Education, Winneba, whose graduation was postponed, but the university, following the expiration of the term of the university's governing council, can now graduate. According to the Vice Chancellor, the new governing council, in conjunction with the university management, has set new dates to graduate affected students.
Last July, our planned congregation had to be called off due to the expiration of the term of the then council and the delay in the reconstitution of same. Thankfully, after 2 months or so, our diligent search by government, the new council under the chairmanship of Professor Dr. Obey Mreku has been reconstituted and duly sworn in. This has therefore opened the way for this great university to have our congregation stated.
The Vice-Chancellor said management of the university was making consistent effort to provide adequate lecture spaces to facilitate teaching and learning, and as a result, contract had been awarded for the construction of 3 additional lecture blocks at the Uniba campus. The university received a total of 38,898 applications, an increase over the previous years of 37,733. Richard Kwejenya, Joy News, Cape Coast.
It's live on Joy News today with me, Daniel Dazina. The Ghana Union of Traders Associations has expressed concern about the closure of Nigerian borders in recent times. According to GUTA, the action by Nigeria amounts to a serious infraction of the ECOWAS protocol of ensuring free trade among member countries. In a statement issued by the association, GUTA, among others, accused Nigeria of engaging in indecent trade activities in Ghana while taking steps to protect their own. Public Relations Officer of GUTA, Joseph Paddy, was on News Desk earlier explaining their concerns.
There's a speculation going around, and one of the reasons was that there's a proliferation of arms into the country, and they want to protect that. And secondly, we hear there's a smuggle of rice into the country, and they want to protect their rice producers in Nigeria. So this is a speculation. So we want to find out. We wanted to go to Foreign Affairs to find out why, because we don't know why they should close the border to our traders. Most of GUTA traders ply these corridors. And most of the informal sectors, they do their business in Nigeria. So when you do that, you are not being fair to the ECOWAS protocol, where it says there's a free movement of goods and services and people. So we don't know why Nigeria should close their border without any information to ECOWAS countries, member countries, and it's a challenge. So most of our people now are stuck, their goods are stuck in Nigeria. Just imagine somebody has gone for a facility alone to import, and the goods are in Nigeria, but whatever happens, he has to pay for that facility, and we don't think it's a healthy practice. So where is the free movement of goods and service? And most times, if Ghanaians want to enforce now they are enforcing, they want to protect, there's a protectionism. They want to protect the rice producers in Nigeria. And if we Ghanaians, we also want to protect the informal sector, and we say don't enter into the retail sector, then the Nigerians complain. So we're asking the Nigerian government to open the borders to our traders. If you are saying there's a proliferation of small arms into your country, so make sure you enforce your border controls. If you think people are smuggling rice to the country, enforce your border control. Which people are mining the border in the first place? They are Nigerians, they are not foreigners. So if there's something wrong, that activity should not affect we who are doing legitimate business. And that is the challenge we're talking about. So we are saying Nigerians should open the border to our traders who are stuck in Nigeria. And from here, we're also going to go to the commissioner, Nigerian High Commission. We're going to go there and find out. Because as at now, it's a speculation. We are all speculating. We don't really know.
No official statement.
No official statement has been released on that. Okay. And Foreign Affairs too, we want to hear from them. Why is it so? It's like everybody is silent, and our traders are suffering.
Now, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has urged Ghanaians, especially those living around the borders, to bear the government as they work to put in security measures to make them safe. He says the threat of terrorist attacks in neighboring countries has made government put in place stringent measures to fend off any potential terror attacks. Dr. Bawumia made the statement at the 43rd Annual Combined Festival of the Chiefs and People of the Laura traditional area. JoyNews' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Laura. Right, before that though, let's go straight to the University of Ghana, Legon now. MFA Joadosi speaking to Prof. RANSFORD JAMPO.
Him was sent to come and trap. In the process of her entrapment, she became a friend, and we had our conversation as friends. And some of the conversations were very informal, but we are all mindful of the fact that it had got nothing to do with my professional relationship with a student and all that. And so if you have looked at the video, it has got nothing to do with somebody having sex and changing. How do you talk about sex for greed between a lecturer and somebody who is not his student? And so it is misleading, but it seems to me that I explained the circumstances to them, and it seems to me that there are people behind the scenes trying to pull the strings just to be able to embarrass me and all that. Because if you speak to the BBC, they tend to understand your point of view. I've written extensively. I'm going to give you copies of these letters. This is my first letter I wrote to them. It's an 11-pager. The second letter, it's here, and then the third letter explaining. And I made a lot of points, raised a lot of issues with what we were seeking to do. But some way, somehow, they decided not to factor anything that I have said in this letter into their own reportage. And the people that they were supposed to speak to, we had conversations here with my assistants, in the office. They don't want to speak to them. And it's like they are bent on pushing a certain angle just to be able to embarrass me. I can understand, because this is not the first time incident like this has happened. You come from Joy. Google accuser apologizes to Prof. GYAMPO. It was your outlet that carried that story, where somebody made that allegation. When I was going to go to court, then the person came to apologize. I've received several text messages and threatening ones telling me, we're going to bring you down, we're going to kill you, because you're a loudmouth. The worst that can happen to me is for them to kill me. But me too, I don't fear to die. So this one, it is just a stone that has hit the thigh of an elephant. I don't care. Once I haven't done what they said I have done, my conscience are clean. I will continue to do what I know how to do best. I will treat my students with love and respect. I will say my mind on all national issues at all times. Damn the consequences, and let people like the current crop of BBC reporters do the kinds of things that they want to do. I don't care about them. I care about my nation, Ghana. I will continue to live a life of integrity and serve my nation, Ghana.
Can you easily recall this particular this video that we're saying, who this person is, how the person approached you? Can you run us through what happened?
Yeah, the person was, I just came to my office, sat down. After sitting down, I was just about rushing into another meeting where my assistant just called to tell me, just informed that there's this lady who has been here for about 20 times. Anytime she comes, I'm a very busy person. Anytime she comes, she doesn't, meet you. So I'm pleading with you, try and meet her for me. I said, okay, bring her in. They brought the lady in, and she came to sit where you are sitting. You are very articulate, you are very confident. I admire you. I like the way you keep politicians on their toes. Every lady I've spoken to wants to have you as a friend. She said all manner of things. And I said, my friend, tell me why you came in here and stop these things. And she said, well, she's writing a research that she wants me to mentor. And so, what was it? She said she was writing about academic freedom. Around that time, I had spoken extensively against the draft Public Universities Bill. So she felt that giving my stance on that, I could be of help. And so I gave her the needed directions. There are some of the things I can show you. Hold on. She termed her own name as Abigail, and when she came the first day, I asked her to go and do something. Okay, go and do research about how university professors are appointed in Germany, because I know that I was told the university professors in Germany, sometimes in their appointments, the government or the local authorities have a say. I wanted to understand so that I can also fashion out an argument to be able to make a case, for our situation. So she brought this paper, and it's here. She brought this paper. We discussed it extensively. And subsequently, she became like a friend, because apart from why she came here, she would get up in the morning and text you, how are you doing? And had that kind of conversation. So most of our conversations were held in my office, where I had my 4 assistants here. How can I harass somebody in the full glare of my assistant? So we all share conversations, and we all laugh, we joke about it, and all that. The next thing I heard was that BBC said my conversations with her were inappropriate, and so it amounts to harassment. How do I harass her? In our university, we talk about sexual harassment, and when it's happening between a student and his lecturer, where the lecturer has a say or determine an influence in determining her grade, and all that. So you want to change somebody's grades, or if you don't allow me to do X, Y, Z with you, I'll fail you or something. That's what we term. But this is the case. The student, the person when she came here right from the word go, we had agreed she wasn't a student. Okay, she wasn't my student. She's not even a student in the university. And so how do you term that? How do I manipulate the grades of somebody who is not even my student and a student of my university and all that? It's calculated effort and attempt by some people to just run my name and image in the mat, maybe if to see whether that would silence me and all that. But I understand the game. Once I've not run afoul of my own university's rule, once I've not done anything, or I've not gone to sleep with anybody and changed the grade and all that, I am resolved and resilient. I would be myself. These things will not do anything to me. It's part. I mean, if you hit at people, you expect them to also hit at you. And this is not the first time this is happening. And so we have the skin. We would show that we would stand some of these things. And I thank all my friends and well wishers who have been sending me messages just to say they stand with me and they are with me. I thank all of them. And those people who are also happy, I forgive them. But it's not over. I'm not done. In fact, I'm not going down. I'm still RANSFORD JAMPO.
I see that you have a number of responses, about 1, 2, 3 of them. What is it saying in that, and what responses?
You go and read.
Yes, but I'm sure that this response.
I told them that the charges that were leveling against me, I was refuting them, and I was also telling them that, you see, they have the penchant of describing our institutions as weak, okay. And yet they are undermining our institutions. See, we've thrown away the yoke of colonialism long ago. We are not in the colonial era. So if there is a problem in this between a lecturer and a supposed student, you are supposed to encourage the lecturer, the student, to report the matter to the university, because they have appropriate machinery and mechanisms to handle some of these things. You haven't done that, okay? You are supposed to also know that sexual harassment is a criminal offense. So if for nothing, let them also report to the police. They haven't done that. Now, per what you are doing, you are saying that anytime there is something wrong with a student, the student should not make use of our due processes here. They should go to BBC to report. Does that make sense? Are we not going back to the days of colonialism where we create an impression as if our institutions can't work, and so somebody will have to come from BBC to come and handle some of these things? Why do you say we have weak institutions when you would not allow the institutions that we have set up to even work? If they really mean well, let them bring before me, before the sexual harassment committee, the so-called student, and the student prove a case, and let me also talk, so that if I'm guilty, I'll be found guilty. But if the person is not a student and you came to trap and all that, what do you expect me to do? I've not slept with her, and I didn't sleep with her. I didn't touch her. I didn't handle. I have not done anything untoward, and she's not my student. So the issue about changing her grades and all that cannot even arise. I want to go and teach now. I beg you.
Final question. Final thing. What do you intend doing next? After, because the documentary is set to also air this evening at 6 o'clock. What do you intend to do afterwards?
Well, I've seen my portion of the documentary already, and my lawyers had prepared my suit even long before they aired. We saw the documentary, and so tomorrow morning we'll sue them. Go to court, we'll sue them, and let them know that the BBC of yesteryears is not the BBC today. The BBC of yesteryears that was independent and would look into matters from all angles is now the BBC of a few people who are paid by some politicians who do not like people who are independent-minded. They get paid and they get pushed to do their bidding. And I'm happy. You see in my letter, I've told them that they are doing the bidding of some people, and I expect them to be independent-minded. When you saw the video, were you not disappointed? You were expecting a lecturer sleeping with a student and going to change the grade. Who does that? It doesn't make sense. BBC must set up. Otherwise, they are as useless as any other media outlet that is not worth its salt.
Thank you.
And that was Professor RANSFORD JAMPO speaking with MFI JoyNews. Expect more in later bulletins. Coming up in business, Exim Bank approves 1.7 billion cedis to support 84 indigenous companies. There's more on